Wonder about the future and how you'll be working and learning? Welcome to You in 2042, the future of work, with your host, Danielle Wallace.
Thank you for picking up this great podcast topic from last time and now being able to dig deeper into the metaverse, from which you spoke a bit about in our last podcast. Love to know a bit more about the role of education as it relates to the metaverse.
You know, that's really interesting. In fact, what I'll do is I'll get the audience to take a look at the work of Patty Mays at the MIT Media Labs. And she has a research group called the Fluid Interfaces group. And about a few weeks ago, they had a day-long workshop, which is available online. I recommend you have a look, where they had some of the top speakers in the world and talk specifically about that, the impact it's going to have on people's lives, but also in education. I also have done an interview. So if you actually look under, search for Stephen Ibaraki and then IEEE Thames, you'll find an interview I have done. It's almost 2 hours long with Patty Mays and some of her researchers. And so what are some of the things they found? Well, they found, or hints anyways, that they found. And keep in mind, they've been working on this for 3 decades. They found that if you choose an avatar that is, or the embodiment of who you want to appear, somebody you respect or admire, then it'll change your capacity to maybe learn better. If you use filters of something that represents, again, something respectful and so on, then it could change sort of your approach to things. So what it can do is maybe enhance learning or increase the attention that you give to something. There is a high school in the U.S. It's called the Anaheim Union High School District, and they're already now experimenting with virtual reality and adding this kind of metaverse curriculum for their students. Stanford University has a virtual human interface a lab, and they actually have built a city, and they're looking to see what the persistence is, what are some of the challenges, but what are the opportunities as well. And they're finding that some of the things that happen in the metaverse carry on in a positive way when they're off the metaverse. So you can maybe get transference from what's happening in the sort of enriched environment in the metaverse to afterwards as well. So it provides all sorts of opportunities for learning. Keep in mind too that in the metaverse, providing, there's proper governance rules and, privacy is protected. You can monitor all sorts of reactions of people to determine whether they're not paying attention, or something's not capturing their interest, or there's some kind of break in their understanding, and then you can make some corrective action by personalizing it, and I would say, or maybe use a term like precision personalized education. So it's very precise because it's analyzing how you are attending to something you're learning. It's personalized to you because you're the way the dynamics of how you learn will be different from other people. And the system can then tune to you, to your individual needs. So that's where it's going to go towards a precision, personalized education. So it could be quite an enhancement. There is this other side, though. If it could be used for positive education, it can also be used for negative education. So we have to be wary of that.
So that idea of precision, personalized education, that dovetails well with where the industry is going and is currently using AI to help address. But what I find fascinating with this idea of the metaverse is, from a learning and development standpoint, is that it truly is this new area that yet we as a profession of only taking peeks at. But there's tremendous opportunity, and even the added data that you're suggesting can be gathered from this becomes a rich source to provide that precision, personalization.
Yeah. Now let's take it one step further. Right now you can get into an immersive environment just using your phone, right? You can walk through 3D worlds using your phone. Pokemon Go is an example of that. You can wear these head-mounted devices, affordable head-mounted devices, but they're becoming more powerful and smaller. And these are going into glasses, and there's even contact lenses being worked on. And then, of course, you have brain interfaces, including non-invasive brain interfaces, where there's this communication between, the digital realm or computers and yourself. And perhaps clinical trials or some trials happening either this year or next year and so on. And there are already been studies with animals, right? In fact, I even did a keynote back in 2015 in Korea where I talked about some of this even happening, 7 years ago and research. So can you imagine if you can have this seamless communication that's occurring, non-invasive, where you're sending your thoughts out, it's being registered and captured, but again under proper governance and so on, and then in turn you can get information back personalized to how sort of the direction you're going in, and understanding where the gaps are. And that's where you're seeing now with these new models coming out from DeepMind or in the robotics area or in deep learning or in these large transformer models of language, where they can do just almost magical things. I don't know if any of your audience, you may have heard of something called DALL-E 2, which is based on OpenAI and their GPT-3 technology. But what it does is it allows you to give in any kind of descriptive form what you want, and it'll create a photorealistic picture. So you could say, I want a picture of a mouse in an astronaut outfit flying to a distant galaxy powered by photonic robots or something, and it'll create that image, and it's quite realistic, and then even to the lighting and so on. So can you imagine what that unlocks, right? So, and what does that do to education? It used to be that if I wanted to become an artist, I had to spend years acquiring the finite or I should say very detailed precision skills. But what if I had creative ability, but I didn't have the means or the environment to develop those artistic skills, to do the art, but I had the ideas. Now you can transform. You could be a creator. You can have the idea and create art, or you can have ideas about music and then use AI to help create the music, or have the ideas and have AI do the writing for you. I wrote a Forbes piece last year, and I used an AI tool to help write part of that piece. And in the article, I said, I used AI to help write part of this article. And I said, can you guess which parts I wrote and which parts the AI wrote? And I bet you couldn't tell.
That is amazing. And I know GPT-3 can, and some of those other endeavors have had lasting capabilities, but it's also fascinating to think this is now, and that you wrote this article already, and then even for the world of education, suddenly it puts into perspective, this is a current technology that can dramatically shape the need for people to be writing, as an example, or also provide the more creative means for more creators to tap into what their passions are. But these are things happening now.
Yeah, so can you imagine, again, DeepMind released this kind of hybrid system just recently where it can do many, many different things. It used to be that when you trained an AI model, it can do one thing, but this can do many things. And so the implication is now this is the beginning of the journey for artificial general intelligence, because it can generalize what it's working on. So I recommend you just have a look. I mean, it's controversial too. Some people are saying it's not there yet and so on. And they admit that there's a big way to go. But can you imagine if you can scale this? If you've got the root, the building block of something that you can scale into artificial general intelligence, then it's just a matter of replicating it to be bigger, and then it can do magical things, right? And in the transformer models, like OpenAI, this group with their GPT-3, where they've trained this language model, and it's got like 175 billion parameters, right? And so think of it as 175 billion ways of thinking about something, right? And then, but they're working on one that has over 500 billion, and the Chinese have come out with one, Wudao 2, that has 1.72 trillion. So they're working on a multi-trillion one, and if you follow NVIDIA and some of their keynotes and so on, you'll see them talk about the human brain, let's say, and I'll add some of my own abstraction to it as well. It has 85 billion neurons, and then with synapses, maybe it's over 100 trillion synapses, right? And NVIDIA talks about this, but they're also saying, or the implication is that we're going to have models that are going to be over 100 trillion, and that's next year, right? So now that's approximating the neurons in your brain and the synapses in your brain, though there could be other processing occurring in your brain and the support glial cells and others. So maybe it's in the quadrillion to really approximate what you have in the human brain. But it's interesting to see these things just growing. And then, GPT-3, a version of this model can code. You can get it to write code, right? So, and Microsoft just held their Build conference, and they've now partnered with GPT with OpenAI, and they have their Azure version of this that can be used in business, and you can use for practical applications and do things that really were maybe considered not possible, but now are possible, right? And we're just at the beginning of this, so it's accelerating, right?
So it sounds like there is a lot of opportunity now to be abreast of what is happening in the industry. Just a small fraction of what is to come when looking at the metaverse and looking at OpenAI. I look forward to building upon this and seeing what future innovations we should have on our horizon on our next episode.